My name is Emily, and from a young age I knew I was never the priority in my parents' eyes. My older brother Brandon, who is 2 years older than me, was always the center of attention and the focus of their hopes and dreams. From my earliest memories, I could see the stark difference in how they treated us. Brandon received every opportunity, while I was often left on the sidelines, figuring out how to adapt on my own. When Brandon joined the school basketball team, my parents spared no expense to support him. They spent money on the best shoes, hired a private coach, and even hosted parties to celebrate his victories. I remember once telling my mom that I wanted to take an art class at the community center. She simply smiled and said, "Maybe next year, sweetie. This month's money has to go toward Brandon's training fees." I quickly learned it was better not to ask for anything, because the answer was always, "We don't have enough money." The disparity became even more glaring when Brandon entered his senior year of high school, and I was just 14. One evening at dinner, my parents proudly announced that they had saved enough money to send Brandon to a prestigious university out of state. Not only that, but they had also arranged for him to have a small apartment near campus so he could focus on his studies. I sat silently as my parents and brother enthusiastically discussed his bright future, my chest tightening with every word. I knew that if they had poured all their savings into Brandon, there would be nothing left for my college education. In the evenings that followed, I lay awake, worrying about my future. But instead of feeling defeated, I decided to take action and change my circumstances. The next day I visited my grandparents, who owned a small antique shop in town. I told them about my dream of going to college and the challenges I was facing. My grandfather looked at me thoughtfully and said, "Emily, I could give you the money, but I think it would be better if you earned it yourself. Would you like to work at the shop after school?" Without hesitation I nodded, feeling as if I had found a glimmer of hope in the darkness. From that day forward I began working at my grandparents' antique shop after school. The job wasn't easy, but I learned a great deal. I helped keep inventory, managed the shop, and sometimes listened to my grandmother share the history behind the old treasured items they sold. With every day of work, I felt closer to achieving my goal. When I told my parents about the job and my plan to save money for college, their reaction left me both saddened and more aware of my place in the family. They seemed relieved, as if my decision to take care of myself had lifted a burden off their shoulders. My teenage years passed in a blur of stark contrasts between how my parents treated me and Brandon. While they poured all their resources, affection, and attention into him, I had to learn how to stand on my own. Yet, that unfairness taught me the value of patience and perseverance. Although I often felt neglected, I knew I didn't want to spend my life living in Brandon's shadow, or being at the mercy of my parents' favoritism. I was determined to carve out my own path no matter how difficult it would be. The early days working at my grandparents' antique shop marked a significant turning point in my life. I was only 14, still naive and inexperienced, but the warmth and patience of my grandparents made me feel truly welcomed. My grandfather, a calm man with silver hair, meticulously taught me everything from inventory management to recognizing the value of antique items. My grandmother always greeted me with freshly baked cookies and captivating stories about the history behind the items we sold. For the first time, I found a place where I was valued, heard, and appreciated, something I had never felt at home. Working at the shop wasn't easy, especially while juggling school. Mornings were dedicated to focusing on my studies, and as soon as the school bell rang, I would head straight to the shop. At first, my body ached from standing all day, organizing shelves and assisting customers. But gradually I adapted to the rhythm of the work, and my effort began to pay off. At the end of each week, my grandparents would hand me a small paycheck. Each bill and coin went into a wooden box I kept at my bedside, and with every addition I felt a satisfaction I had never experienced before. It wasn't a large amount, but every dollar represented my hard work and determination, and I knew I was inching closer to my goal. While I kept myself busy with work and studies, things at home remained the same. My parents continued to pour all their attention into Brandon. Every evening, I would come home to find them deeply engrossed in discussions about his future, planning his move to the prestigious university, picking out furniture for his apartment, and ensuring everything was perfect for him. I didn't expect them to ask about my day, or offer encouragement. I had long accepted my place in the family. Yet, there were moments when the sight of them all huddled together while I sat quietly in the background made me ache with loneliness. I wanted to scream, "I'm your child too, I have dreams too, I need support too." But instead, I swallowed my pain, reminding myself that I didn't need them, that I could achieve my dreams on my own. 3 years passed and my job at the antique shop became more than just a means to save money for college. It taught me invaluable life lessons. I learned how to communicate with customers, evaluate the worth of items, and most importantly, face challenges with patience and resilience. These skills not only helped me at work, but also built my self-confidence, something I had lacked growing up in Brandon's shadow. By the time I reached my senior year of high school, I had saved enough to cover my first year at a nearby community college. I didn't tell my parents about the money I had saved because I knew they would see it as my responsibility, rather than a personal achievement. Instead, I shared the news with my grandparents, and the pride in their eyes was the only validation I needed. My grandfather even handed me an antique pocket watch saying, "You'll need this to remind yourself that time is the most precious resource. Don't waste it on people who don't value you." The night I received my acceptance letter, I sat in my small bedroom, feeling a quiet but profound happiness. I didn't need a grand celebration or lavish praise. What mattered was the recognition I gave myself. I knew that, no matter how challenging the road ahead might be, I was prepared to face it. I had not only grown from the unfairness I endured, but had turned it into a driving force for my success. And in that sense I was right. And I was proud of myself, and that was something no one could ever take away from me. Starting my college life, I, Emily, quickly realized that independence wasn't just about managing money. It was about learning to stand tall amidst challenges without family support. At 17, fresh out of high school, I enrolled in a community college near home. It wasn't the prestigious university my parents had boasted about when it came to Brandon, but to me, it was a dream I had built on my own. With the money I had saved over 3 years working at my grandparents' antique shop, I could cover my first year's tuition. To save costs, I continued living at home, but that meant enduring my parents' favoritism once again. While I balanced school and a part-time job at a cafe near campus, Brandon graduated college at 20 and became the family's shining star once more. My parents threw him a grand celebration, inviting friends, family, and neighbors. Meanwhile, when I completed my first year of college with stellar grades, no one in my family acknowledged it. That evening's dinner was just another ordinary meal I cooked for myself. No cake, no congratulations, no proud smiles. I quietly celebrated my success alone because I knew waiting for recognition from my parents would only lead to disappointment. Things worsened when Brandon announced his engagement to his girlfriend Grace the summer after his graduation. Not only that, but they planned to move into a spacious apartment in New York City. An apartment my parents readily supported financially to help them start their new life. While I scraped together every penny to cover tuition and the exorbitant cost of textbooks, my parents spared no expense for Brandon and Grace's lavish wedding. I wasn't jealous, but I felt a deep sadness realizing that, in my parents' eyes, I had never truly been a priority. That fall, as I started my second year of college, I decided it was time to move out. At home, I constantly felt like an outsider, someone misplaced within her own family. I found a small apartment near campus, modest but cozy enough to give me the sense of freedom I craved. My income from the cafe job covered my expenses, and I finally began to feel a sense of stability in my life. Free from the complaints and comparisons at home, I could fully focus on my studies and work. Even after distancing myself, my parents still found ways to interfere. One day my mom called me with an unexpected request. "Emily, you should send some money home. Brandon and Grace need extra help furnishing their new apartment," she said, her tone matter-of-fact. I was stunned. They had given Brandon all the support I had needed, and now they wanted me, a part-time working college student, to chip in so my brother could live comfortably? I took a deep breath and replied, "Mom, I'm sorry but I can't. I need the money for my education and living expenses." There was a pause before her tone turned colder. "Emily, we're family. You can't be so selfish." I didn't know how to respond. My entire life I had never been selfish. I had given up what I wanted, worked tirelessly to carry my own weight, and never asked for more than the bare minimum. Yet even now my efforts were dismissed. I hung up the phone, tears streaming down my face. Not out of guilt, but out of the realization that I would never receive the love or recognition I yearned for from my parents. In that moment, I made a decision. I wouldn't let myself be pulled into this cycle any longer. Instead of seeking validation from my family, I would start validating myself. And from that moment on, I knew my life was mine to shape, not theirs to dictate with their unreasonable expectations and favoritism. I never imagined I would face what happened when I was 20 years old. In my final year of college, balancing work and studies to prepare for my future, a call from my mom turned everything upside down. "Emily, Brandon is going through a tough time. You know, his business just failed, and Grace is really overwhelmed with taking care of the baby. They need a place to stay temporarily. Can you let them stay at your apartment? And if possible, could you help out a little financially?" I still had to live with my mom. "And if possible, could you help out a little financially?" My mom's voice carried an air of urgency, softened by an attempt to make it seem like this was the obvious, natural thing for me to do. I bit my lip, anger and frustration welling up inside me. I had worked hard to pay for this apartment, to build a peaceful life for myself, and now it was about to become chaotic. I wanted to say no, but my mom's pleading and veiled guilt, tripping me with little choice. "Fine, but only for a short while," I replied reluctantly. My mom sighed in relief, while I felt the weight of an enormous burden settle on my shoulders. He hadn't missed a beat. A few days later, Brandon, Grace, and their baby Tommy moved in. From the moment they stepped through the door, I knew my life was about to change drastically. Brandon carried himself with his usual air of arrogance, despite his evident failure. Grace looked perpetually exhausted, and Tommy's cries filled the small apartment, making it nearly impossible for me to concentrate on anything. Within weeks, my once peaceful home had turned into a chaotic mess. As I said, baby toys littered every corner, dirty dishes piled up in the sink, and tension hung thick in the air as Brandon and Grace bickered constantly. I tried to endure it, but things got worse when my parents demanded that I contribute more financially to support Brandon. "Emily, you've had a steady job, and you've been paying rent for this apartment all along, but now that there are more people, costs have gone up. We need you to chip in more," my mom said, her tone more of a command than a request. I tried to stay calm, but inside I was fuming. "But I'm sleeping on the couch, and I'm the one paying for everything here. Brandon and Grace could contribute a little, right?" I argued, trying to keep my voice steady. My mom simply responded, "Brandon has been through a rough time. You can't expect him to contribute right now." The unfairness of it all left me feeling even more disheartened. I was footing all the bills, living on a couch in my own apartment, while Brandon and Grace enjoyed the bedroom without contributing a dime. Every evening after work, I came home to a messy apartment, Tommy's relentless cries, and Brandon's complaints about how he didn't deserve to be treated like this. I felt invisible, reduced to nothing more than a means to accommodate everyone else's needs. Precisely how it should have been. In an attempt to improve the situation, I once suggested, "Brandon, my company is hiring for a few positions. I could refer you to HR, it could help you get back on your feet." But he just scoffed and replied, "A low-level job? Emily, I'm a businessman, I don't do menial work." His arrogance and lack of accountability were the final straw. I realized that no matter how much I sacrificed, Brandon, my parents, and Grace would never appreciate my efforts. End of page. Eventually, I knew I couldn't keep living like this. One evening, after staring at a pile of dirty dishes and listening to Tommy's cries that seemed endless, I opened my laptop and started searching for apartments. I found a small studio near my workplace, affordable with my salary. That night, I made the decision to move out and leave behind the people who had taken my help for granted. The next morning I called my mom and told her about my decision. She tried to persuade me to stay, but this time I didn't waver. I had endured enough, and it was time to prioritize myself. Moving out felt like lifting a massive weight off my shoulders. Even though I knew my parents wouldn't understand, and Brandon would likely continue to label me as selfish. I didn't care anymore. I had done everything I could for them, and now it was time to live the life I deserved. I knew my decision to move out would anger my parents and Brandon, but it didn't matter anymore. Years of living under the weight of favoritism and expectations had taught me that if I didn't stand up for myself, I would forever be a tool for their convenience. After that final conversation with my mom, I didn't return to the apartment right away. Instead, I spent the evening walking aimlessly, feeling a mix of relief and heaviness in my heart. Yet, the next morning, I woke up early and started packing. I didn't want anyone to know my plans until I was completely gone. I decided to leave behind the bigger items like the bed and furniture because they held too many unhappy memories. I only took my clothes, books, and the personal belongings that mattered most to me. As the room emptied out, I felt like I was shedding an old life, one I no longer wanted to be tied to. That afternoon, I signed the lease for my new apartment. It was a small, cozy place just 10 minutes from work. As I stepped into the empty room for the first time, I felt a sense of freedom I had never experienced before. No more Tommy's cries, no more endless arguments between Brandon and Grace, and no more guilt-tripping phone calls from my mom. This was my space, a place where I could finally start fresh. That evening, as I unpacked my belongings, my phone rang. It was my mom. I sighed, knowing the conversation wouldn't be pleasant. "Emily, what are you doing? Why did you move out without telling us? Don't you know Brandon and Grace need your help?" Her voice was a mixture of anger and disappointment. I stayed calm and replied, "Mom, I've done everything I can to help them. But this is my limit. I can't keep living like that." She wasn't willing to accept my answer. "You're being selfish, Emily. Family is about supporting each other. Brandon is struggling, and you're abandoning him as if you have no responsibility." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my frustration in check. "Mom, family doesn't mean forcing one person to carry the burden so everyone else can live comfortably. I've done my part. And now it's time for Brandon and Grace to take responsibility for themselves." Before she could say anything else, I added, "I've contributed enough, the rest is up to them." As I hung up, I felt both relieved and sad. Even though I knew I had made the right decision, the familiar feeling of being abandoned still lingered. But this time, I reminded myself that I wasn't the one being abandoned. I was the one choosing to walk away to protect myself. The first days in my new apartment were peaceful. Without the pressure to please anyone, I could focus entirely on my work and studies. I spent time decorating the apartment the way I liked, turning it into a small but warm and inviting space. I bought a new couch. Not to sleep on, but to relax on during quiet evenings spent reading after work. I even treated myself to a new set of bedding, something I had never considered before. A month after I moved out, I heard from my grandparents that Brandon and Grace still weren't paying rent, and my parents were covering all the costs. Hearing this, I could only smile sadly. I had expected this outcome, but it was no longer my problem. I was free from the responsibilities my family had unfairly placed on me. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was truly living, not for anyone else's expectations, but for myself. I began setting new goals, pursuing an MBA, advancing in my career, and building a life I could be proud of. Looking back on my journey, I realized that every hardship had its purpose. The unfairness and pain I endured had made me stronger, taught me to value myself, and given me the courage to walk my own path. And I knew that from this point forward, my life could only get better. After I left the apartment, my life gradually turned to a new chapter. Without Tommy's cries, Brandon and Grace's endless arguments, or the unreasonable pressures from my parents, I felt as though I had been set free. My small apartment became a sanctuary. A place where I found true peace and freedom. I spent time curating my living space, from picking out simple furniture, to decorating every corner with vintage items I adored. I was picturing that sunshine in the year. This is what my life would have been. For the first time in years, I felt the joy of living in an environment free of judgment or expectations. Meanwhile, according to my grandparents, my parents continued to shoulder all the financial burdens for Brandon and his family. The apartment I once rented had now become their free housing, which left my parents struggling to make ends meet. Brandon still hadn't found a job, and Grace, despite being a mother, constantly complained about everything. Tommy was growing up, but laughter in their household seemed to fade with time. Hearing all this, I didn't feel vindicated or satisfied. Only pity for my parents, who had chosen to put all their hopes and resources into someone who didn't appreciate it. As for me, my career continued to flourish. After a year of hard work, I was promoted to project manager at my company, earning enough to start saving for my future. I also decided to enroll in an evening MBA program, a decision that filled me with excitement as I invested in myself in ways I never thought possible. These efforts not only advanced my career, but also gave me a profound sense of pride, something I had never experienced while living with my family. One day, I ran into my mom at the grocery store. She seemed slightly surprised by my radiant and confident appearance. We exchanged a few polite words and I noticed she was still financially supporting Brandon. "Brandon and Grace are having another baby," she said, her voice tinged with exhaustion. I smiled faintly but refrained from offering advice or opinions. I understood that this was the path she had chosen, and I no longer felt anger or heartbreak. I simply knew it was no longer my concern. Now, I live the life I once dreamed of, a peaceful life free from the weight of others' expectations. I make my own decisions about my career, education, and relationships. I've realized that to achieve true happiness, you sometimes have to let go of what isn't worth holding on to and focus on yourself. My journey hasn't been easy, but I'm proud to have found the strength to overcome and carve out my own path. Whether or not my parents ever change, my life is now mine alone, and no one can take that away from me. This story underscores the importance of setting personal boundaries, practicing self-love, and respecting yourself, even when it means distancing yourself from toxic family relationships. We shouldn't let favoritism or external pressures define our worth. Independence, determination, and the courage to say no when being taken advantage of are key to achieving happiness and success. Ultimately, true happiness comes from taking control of your life and valuing yourself. What are your thoughts on this story? How do you feel about Emily's decisions? Don't forget to follow this channel to discover more heartfelt stories and valuable life lessons. Join us in spreading these meaningful perspectives.
"I think we need to break up," she said. Suddenly, I was stunned by her unexpected words. In my right hand, I was holding a diamond ring, and she was looking bitterly at it. "What do you mean by breaking up, Emma? You told me you wanted to marry me. That's why I'm so sorry. I've fallen for someone else. I'm very sure that you'll find someone better than me, and someone who deserves that ring more than I do." I felt like crying, but nothing came out. The girl who just broke up with me had tears brimming in her eyes and a pained expression on her face. "Goodbye." Her voice echoed into the distance. The alarm on my phone went off, and I woke up feeling tired. "My name is Ryan. I got fired from my job last week. Lately, I keep having this dream, a dream where an old girlfriend of mine breaks up with me. It's been 10 years since that actually happened, and I thought I had moved on. Why now, all of a sudden? Maybe it's because the fact that I was fired last week still hurts. When something bad happens, unpleasant memories come flooding back. Seriously, I can't believe there still are some companies that prohibit employees from working a second job. It was my fault, but anyway, that was why I got fired, for doing another job. But that was something I had to do, as it was like a passion for me. Well, what do you do? I went to a few employment agencies to sign up. After that, since I had some time in the afternoon, I went to my favorite cafe to eat pancakes and thought about a present for my girlfriend. Of course, not for the girl from the dream. Fortunately, I've been blessed with a new girlfriend, and we've been together for just over 3 years. Unlike when I was with Emma, this time, I already got an answer to my proposal. I didn't want to be dumped at the very last minute like before. I noticed there was a new text message on my phone. "I'll help you with the preparations tomorrow. I'll be there by 9:00 a.m. Love you." Reading the message, I smiled, remembering what my plan was for the next day. Okay, can't wait to see you. Love you too. I replied to the message, pulling myself together. The next day was her birthday and also the day of my first solo exhibition. I rented space at an art gallery in a shopping district to display the jewelry I made. I started making jewelry in college as a way to relieve stress, but I never expected it would reach the level where I could sell them online. Then that online business page was discovered by a colleague, and that was how my boss found out about my second job. Even though I lost my main job, I was making a decent income from my jewelry business, so I wasn't worried at all. I just never thought about making it my main job, but this exhibition might be a good opportunity to seriously consider that. With that thought, I felt even more motivated. The next day, when I arrived at the gallery, Sarah was already there discussing with the person in charge and preparing for my exhibition. Ryan, you're late. Sorry, Sarah. I overslept a bit. I thought you were a morning person, Sarah said, her surprise making me feel guilty. I couldn't possibly tell her that I overslept because I had a dream about Emma. Just got lost in thought and stayed up late last night. Are you still worried about being fired? Yes, something like that. Don't worry about it. It is what it is. Now you can openly do what you love. To cheer me up, Sarah smiled warmly. For a moment, her smile reminded me of Emma, which made me feel uneasy. This ring is really pretty. Suddenly, while arranging the display items, Sarah spoke up. Following her gaze, I saw her looking at a diamond ring prominently displayed on the shelf. That ring brought back the painful memories of the past. That was the first ring I ever made. Then she said, I think we should break up. I was rendered stunned by her abrupt and unexpected statements. Her eyes were bitter as she stared at the diamond ring I was holding in my right hand. What do you mean by separating, Emma? You said you wanted to marry me, so that's why I'm really sorry. I have another person in my heart. I'm very sure you'll find someone better than me, and they deserve that ring more than I do. Though I wanted to cry, I held back. The girl who had just broken up with me had tears in her eyes and a sorrowful expression on her face. Goodbye. Her voice was audible on the other end. When the alarm on my phone went off, I woke up tired. My name is Ryan. My job ended suddenly last week. Recently, I've been dreaming that I broke up with my ex-girlfriend. That was actually 10 years ago, and by then I thought I had moved on. Why suddenly and why now? Maybe because I'm still in pain from getting fired a week ago. Unwanted memories come flooding back after a bad experience. I find it incredible that some companies still prohibit their staff members from working 2 jobs. I was fired for doing another job, even though it was my fault. I had to do it, though, since it was something I felt passionate about. So, what is the next step? I registered with a few different job agencies. After that, I had some free time in the afternoon, so I went to my favorite cafe to eat pancakes and consider what to get my girlfriend. Obviously not for the girl in the dream. I've been lucky enough to discover someone new, and we've been dating for a little over 3 years now. Unlike when I was with Emma, I've had a reaction to my proposal already this time. I didn't want to be abruptly dumped like I did before. I saw there was a recent text message on my phone. I'll help you prepare for tomorrow. I will be here at 9:00 a.m. I treasure you. I smiled, remembered my plans for the next day, and read the note. Okay, it's great to see you. Once I composed myself, I murmured, love you too. The following day was her birthday and my first solo exhibition. I reserved space at a mall art gallery to display the jewelry I made. When I initially started college, making jewelry was how I decompressed, but I never imagined that it would grow to the point where I could sell them online. My coworker saw the company's webpage and informed my supervisor about my second job. I was still making a good income from my jewelry business, so I wasn't worried at all, even though I lost my main job. I've just never really paid much attention to it, but this program would be a great excuse to start. That thought inspired me even more. Sarah was at the gallery chatting to the management and getting everything ready for my show when I arrived the next day. "Ryan, you're late." "I'm sorry, Sarah. I overslept by a little." "I thought you were a morning person," Sarah said, which hurt my feelings. I couldn't possibly tell her that I had overslept due to a dream about Emma. "Just got lost in thought and stayed up late last night." "Are you still worried about being fired?" "Yes, something like that." "It shouldn't worry you. It's the nature of the beast. Now you are free to follow your desires." Sarah smiled warmly at me to lift my spirits. Her smile made me think briefly of Emma, and that made me uncomfortable. "This ring is really pretty." As Sarah was arranging the display items, she spoke up out of the blue. She was looking closely at a diamond ring that was tastefully displayed on the shelf when I followed her gaze. With that ring came the painful memories of the past. That was the first ring I ever made. Emma's father lowered his eyes without taking a sip of his coffee when it arrived. "Emma died a few days ago." I was unable to understand his statements and was left in complete amazement. Sarah, who was seated beside me, opened her eyes wide as well, as if she was speechless. "What are you trying to say? How is Emma doing?" When I did eventually manage to speak, my voice quivered. "She suffered from a fatal sickness. It began a decade ago. The doctor informed her that she wouldn't have much time left to live as the disease was already advanced when it was found. She broke up with you for that reason. She was lying about falling in love with someone else. I had no idea Sarah would be seeing you." "Ryan, did Emma suffer all this time and decide to end our relationship to keep me out of her medical battle?" Suddenly making sense of it, I remembered the anguished look on her face as she said me by. Even so, it didn't feel genuine. Stunned, Sarah next to me started speaking slowly. "I was aware of Emma's illness, but I had no idea it was so severe that she had died. Though first given only 6 months to live, she battled for 10 years. Sarah, it appears that you were unaware of the news that we had shared with your parents." Sarah cried silently, and I, along with Emma's father, pondered about her in silence. Sarah's weeping stopped after approximately 5 minutes of stillness, at which point I said to her, "So, are you related to Emma?" "We are cousins. Yes. Due to her health issues and the distance between our residences, I haven't been able to see her recently. But when we were younger, we were practically sisters." "I see why you looked a little bit like Emma." "Do you believe that?" "Our family members also frequently mention that." Indeed, they shared a similar appearance. Emma told me about her ex-boyfriend, with whom she was still in love, a while back. He crafted a ring just for her, but due to her illness, they had to end their relationship before she could receive the ring. You never seemed like that to me. Honey, I was just wondering whether that ring looked like the one Emma told me about when I saw it earlier. Perhaps as Sarah stared at the ring, she sensed something. When Emma's father gave me a regretful look, I thought to myself, I came here today to ask you if I could borrow that ring to put in Emma's coffin. He showed me my exhibition flyer. Emma thought about you nonstop. She stalked you on social media and even made covert purchases of your jewelry using a friend's identity. She asked me to place the ring in her coffin after she passed away after crying when she saw a picture of it on this flyer. How come Emma didn't tell me? It meant a lot to me to hear her father express her actual feelings, and I now knew why she had to end our relationship. But at the same time, I was overcome with guilt when I considered how Emma had suffered all those years on her own without my knowledge. My tears started to fall freely when Sarah's eventually stopped. Emma's funeral is when? It's slated for tomorrow, he answered. For that reason, may I ask? I realize this is a lot to ask, but I would like to purchase the ring from you. If it's not feasible, is there any way I could borrow it to at least place it in her casket at the funeral? All I want to do is grant her final desire. He gave me a serious look. He came to see me the day before his beloved daughter's funeral, only to grant her final desire after she passed away. I took his father's hand in mine. Kindly carry it with you. Nevertheless, I made it for him. I'm grateful. His eyes were overflowing with tears, like though something had given way within of him. Sarah and I took a taxi to the assigned funeral home the following day. I wonder if this ring will make Emma happy. Naturally, she will be. Sarah grasped my hand and gave me a supportive squeeze while I expressed my doubts. The small case holding the ring was in the inside pocket of my suit. Emma was going to get it from me. I held Emma's hand tightly as I saw her again after a decade apart. It's been a long time. Emma remained silent as she lay in the casket. Her face remained the same since I departed, but her body had grown weak and emaciated. The lasts are, today, I brought you a ring. I apologize for the delay. Please don't cry. This ring will be by your side to protect you from now on. The diamond within the ring case shone brilliantly as I carefully opened it. I removed it from the case and set it inside the casket. Emma's father had arranged with the funeral home to have the ring placed in the casket with the understanding that it would be taken out shortly after, even though it didn't seem like it could be cremated with her. Following the funeral, everything went according to plan, and I had one more chance to say goodbye to Emma. Jess, Emma is truly gone. We'll never see her again. Sarah was Emma's relative, so she would be there at the cremation, but I was going to order a taxi and get out. I went to the taxi booth with Sarah. Are you certain you won't stick around to the very end? I have to go home. I already said goodbye to Emma. I have to do something right now. In what way can you visit my home tomorrow? I have something I would want to give you. At my words, she smiled sweetly, if a little uncomfortably. Sure, I'd be delighted to. I've been working on a ring for Sarah in my home workshop. My original intention was to complete it the evening of the event and present it to her today. To be clear, though, I believe you are aware that I have been crafting a ring specifically for you, and I did not consider you at all during the process. I was a little embarrassed to say it aloud. She didn't hide her happiness and gripped my hand tightly till the taxi arrived, whether or not she knew what was going through my mind. Outside the window, the view grew farther away as the taxi pulled away. Emma. Goodbye. I wondered if she'd had gone gently to heaven. I was worried for a second, but then I knew she was okay. It was Emma's lovely smile that I finally remembered, not the dejected one from my dreams, as I looked up at the clear sky overhead and the rising smoke from the cremation. I would want to ask you, high school dropout, what makes you believe that your pay is merely $444? It indicates that you are no longer a burden to us. Leave. Put differently, you're let go. When payday finally arrived, I noticed that my account had only received $444. Vice President Daniel scoffed and fired me without warning. How come? Terminated? Even so, what does that mean? Performance-based evaluation is the foundation of our organization. Did you really believe you could afford to be lazy and yet be paid? We just cannot afford to retain such a worthless employee. Now leave this spot and remove all traces of yourself. You are useless. Daniel moved away from me and smashed his hand against the desk. This is just AB, right? Though fine, my fists twitched with wrath. I've exhausted all options. All right, whatever happens, I'll remove any traces of myself. It doesn't concern me. Daniel would later crawl back to me, sobbing. Henry is my name. My 40th birthday was last month. Upon reflection, the upbringing I received was quite challenging. My brother Nathan and I were taken in by relatives after our parents passed away when we were little, but nobody showed us much love. Our lives were always crammed full of restrictions and discomforts. I was teased and called names at school all the time. Since his birth, Nathan has been weak and frequently absent from school. Being impoverished was difficult enough, but Nathan's lack of attendance made him stick out even more in his class. Motivated by a desire to keep Nathan safe, I put a lot of effort into my studies and athletics, pushing myself to excel in both areas. I was the class president in elementary school, and I worked really hard every morning to be the anchor in the sports day relay. Upon learning that Nathan was Henry's brother, the bullies who had been pursuing him began to retreat. I started junior high school right as perceptions about us started to shift. Even if my coursework and extracurricular activities were harder, I made a lot of effort to stay up. My classmates began treating me with ease by the time I was in my third year. I received a resounding endorsement from everyone when I stood for student council president. I still recall how thrilled I was to be accepted by everyone at last. I went to the nearby high school because I was an excellent student. To find out what really attracted me, I wanted to go to a private school, but my foster father wouldn't let me. Nevertheless, I was fortunate to have companions who could relate to me, and I felt like I was still young. Nathan had to be hospitalized after collapsing. The hospital expenses surprised me with how much more they were. In essence, our relatives said we were not their responsibility and declined to offer any assistance. My foster parents, who were throwing us meager treatment funds, even frowned. Nathan's condition was unstable, and I was overcome with a strong sense of dread as I considered how long this unknown stay would last. Ultimately, I had no choice but to leave high school. Nathan had to work a part-time job in order to pay for his hospital costs, which was far from adequate. I lost hold of the bright, promising youth I had once clung to. "I apologize," Nathan said. I was packing away some of my home-worn clothing. "What are you apologizing for?" I smiled at Nathan, trying not to show how tired I was, but he seemed hurt that I had to quit school and go to work for him. But my only family was Nathan. Being the older brother, it comes naturally to work hard for my family. You're like a superhuman who does exceptionally well in school and athletics, but you had to give up a lot because of me, this frail, costly burden. I don't even deserve to live this way." "Stop it. By mistake," I yelled. "Sorry." "No, you are not at blame. In actuality, I've been able to push myself so far because of you. Okay, so this is it. You should have this." I gave Nathan something that I had taken out of a paper bag. His expression brightened instantly. "Whoa, the game I've been craving is this one." However, wasn't it pricey? Never undervalue the impact of my work. "Well, use this to lift your spirits." "Yeah, thanks, Henry." As I observed Nathan gleefully examining the gaming system, I resolved that enough was enough. I currently work as a contract employee for a cleaning firm, but my senior colleague and I are heading to the office of a major IT company today. I was observing the office atmosphere closely as I went through the unsorted trash bins. Everyone appeared to be completely absorbed in their work, crouched over their computers and working frantically. My senior colleague remarked, "This place has a gloomy vibe, doesn't it?" I warily questioned, "Have you done cleaning in these kinds of companies a lot?" as we collaborated. "Yes, it's true that more and more of these computer companies are opening up these days," he said, winking at the stench filling the air. Abruptly, I saw a large pamphlet in the combustible waste. The word programming was inscribed on it. "Do you know what programming is?" "No idea, but that's recyclable. So pull it out of the burnable trash," he said. Got it. Even though I kept working as instructed, the phrase programming stayed with me. Upon concluding yet another demanding workday, I hurried to the nearby bookstore. I did a quick search for the book I wanted to read. There it is. It must be a job in demand if businesses like this are expanding, as my senior stated. I noticed that my interest in programming was growing. Perhaps this could work to my advantage. As I turned the pages through the pages of technical jargon, I started to get excited and hopeful again, just like I did in school. I therefore began studying programming assiduously in the lulls between jobs, forcing myself to stay awake whenever any new, obscure technical term popped up. I kept studying, going without sleep. I continued this demanding schedule for 2 years. Lastly, I was able to pass the Fundamental Information Technology Engineer examination, which is required in order to become a certified software engineer. After achieving this, as just 1 out of 5 candidates passed the exam, I carried on with my studies and earned a number of additional system-related certifications that are necessary for any software engineer. I started out as a software engineer and gained experience by working for a number of system development and game production organizations. I was in charge of a government-affiliated website's operations when I was employed for a large telecom corporation. And once more, I was given the responsibility of developing the system for a well-known app game while working for a subcontractor. As a software engineer, these experiences have really increased my confidence. With a helpful employer and encouraging coworkers, I had a busy but happy life. I left the company with a heavy heart, but I had a purpose in mind. I now work for a firm that develops video games. Just a few years after its founding, this firm published its first game, which went on to become an international hit and was even approved for use as an official game in well-known esports competitions. Since then, the business has kept releasing shooters, role-playing games, and role-playing games, quickly becoming a challenger to big-name game companies. The organization is split into 2 departments: systems, which is in charge of game creation, and management, which is in charge of internal infrastructure and general affairs. I work in the systems department's game programming team. It really is the center of a corporation that makes video games. Daniel, the vice president, currently oversees the company's management. Daniel is an intelligent individual, but he also believes strongly in academic qualifications and has a propensity to be self-righteous. Daniel seemed to take great satisfaction in his ability to manage better than everyone else. He had previously been a founder member of a startup, but because he had no prior experience in the gaming industry, he made a lot of unnecessary demands without really knowing what he was getting into. Hey, how's the game that's supposed to come out in 2 months going? Well, by early next week, we should have a sample ready. Get it done by tomorrow. How come? But take note, I do mean it when I say tomorrow. Indeed. In this field, when meeting deadlines is crucial, working overtime is just part of the work. For this reason, efficient scheduling is crucial. But you have to rework the entire plan when unforeseen chores arise like this one. Consequently, there was an enduring sense of fatigue that pervaded the office. I was sick of this environment, so I made it a point to help my coworkers and do my work quickly. As a result, I frequently left the workplace on time. It was the same today. Aurora, a new employee, shouted out to me as I was about to leave the office after finishing all of my chores. "Hi, Henry. What's going on?" She was in charge of the management department's internal systems, and even though she was working nonstop, she always seemed to exude energy and positivity. Her eyes met mine directly, her features defined in a gentle brown. "Who are you really, Henry?" What? What an impromptu query. Even though everyone in this place is overworked, you always manage to do everything and get out on time. It's honestly difficult to believe. Was she trying to be ironic? Aurora smiled broadly at me, as if to conceal a plan, and said, "Since you're so good at your job, I have something I'd really like your help with." I wasn't exactly sure what she was trying to tell me. Hello. Good morning. First thing in the morning. The formerly tense environment had considerably subsided, even if my team was still overburdened with work, and there were even times when we were able to have a little conversation. Aurora took the initiative to design and deploy a productive work management system around a month ago. She had long questioned the particular working methods of this sector and had gone to management with her concerns, saying it wouldn't be shocking if some workers died from overwork if things kept going this way. There has been a noticeable drop in overtime since the system's introduction. Daniel was happy with this accomplishment, of course. Well, we've avoided a problem for the staff members because of this system. All of it is due to you, Aurora. We ought to have a celebration someday soon. Thank you, but in all honesty, it's because the team worked together. No, no, no. Like Henry, the person over there, who was attempting to escape, these people did nothing. Just as I turned to walk away, Daniel called my name. Instinctively, I spun around. I get annoyed with people like you who just give up and leave on time. You pretend to be above everything, even though you know that everyone else is working extremely hard. No cooperation among teammates. You're just putting on a brave face and pushing the responsibility for your work on others. Isn't that right? I felt shivers down my spine as he sneered, yet there was no laughter in his eyes. Henry, Daniel is. Did you know that Aurora is merely a high school dropout? In this society, a dropout is garbage. Spending time with someone like him could be detrimental to your promising career. You ought to be selective about the people you associate with. For instance, someone like myself who works in a top-tier position and graduated from a prestigious college. Speak what you want to say. Daniel's hatred for me was growing every day, but I didn't care to interact with him. For instance, I was the only one who was unaware of changes to the company's holiday schedule, as if I should report for duty even on my days off. And I also never received the year-end tax adjustment paperwork. These were obviously Daniel's directives. The other employees seemed to recognize this was Daniel's doing, but since he was practically the main authority in the organization, no one dared to say up. They were confined to spectator mode. Even though I couldn't help but experience a range of emotions, I kept my entire attention on my work. I didn't care as long as the work was completed. However, at about that same moment, something unexpected happened. I went to the ATM today, payday, to take out some cash before I went to the workplace. I was taken back for a second as I glanced swiftly at my bank book. After wiping my eyes, I took another look at the bank book. How come? What does this signify exactly? It was just $444 that was deposited. Is there a chance that there is a system error? I hurried to the company after exiting the ATM quickly. Daniel, could you please explain this? HR instructed me to go to the vice president's room as soon as I got to the office, so I hurried over without stopping to gather my breath. Daniel mumbled something ridiculous in a tone that seemed strangely calm. What is there to clarify? Here is our assessment of you. Your compensation is determined by the worth of the task you do. It's reasonable for someone who doesn't work well in a team, hardly works at all, and adds nothing to the business. You salary thief should actually be thankful that you're receiving anything at all. My body flushed from the sheer audacity of his comments, but Daniel didn't stop there. He persisted in moving forward. All right, Mr. High School Dropout, I have a question for you. Why is $444, in your opinion? That means show to get rid of a burden like you, Daniel remarked, dismissively waving his right hand as if shooing away a nuisance. Put differently, you're let go. Do you really believe you can just get by here and get paid? No, I'm not blind. We don't have money to squander on pointless things. Now, remove all traces of yourself and leave. After receiving this unquestionable announcement of my termination, I departed the vice president's office in shock, but determined to carry out a plan I had been covertly mulling over. I started organizing my desk by myself after hearing my teammates' repeated warnings so loudly that they seemed to be echoing in my ears. Suddenly, Aurora cried out, "Henry." Oh, Aurora, I appreciate all of your effort. Aurora was wearing a severe expression. Why? I took a careful look at her. There was anger in her eyes, but also sadness. However, I hesitated for a while before responding to her query, adding, Aurora, I'm sorry, but there's something I need to ask you to do. I looked at the clock once more. The time was 10:00 a.m. I hadn't slept that soundly in a very long time. Daniel's harassing had prevented me from getting home at a decent hour for the last few months. Being able to live a typical human existence again felt amazing. I was contemplating having a haircut for the first time in a long time when my phone loudly buzzed on the bedside table. I quickly looked at the screen before pressing the call button. Hello. Hey, Henry. Anger was in Daniel's high-pitched voice. You really did it this time. What are you talking about? Avoid acting foolish. Anyhow, come back right now. The business is seriously in trouble. What happened? It appears that you were the one who devised the work management system that Aurora produced. She filled me in on everything. Please return here. Daniel sounded desperate as well as angry, but I just scratched my head and said, yeah, that's correct. It was me who designed that system. I asked her if she had made it or not. Why would you do anything like that, Henry? And why did you ruin the framework? Daniel was growing increasingly enraged. Well, Daniel, didn't you say that I should remove all traces of myself when I leave? I deleted everything I had made, just as you said. On the other end of the telephone, I heard Daniel gasp. Yes, that is what I said, but this is sabotage. As vice president, I'm telling you to return right now. I'm sorry, but I won't be coming back. I hung up the phone after that since I thought the whole thing was silly. I fall back into bed and think about the talk I had with Aurora 3 months prior. Aurora stopped me shortly after work and asked for my assistance with something. What do you want me to help with? I want you to team up with me to create a certain system. A system. Yes. Aurora then launched into a passionate explanation of all the issues with the company's current state and the work environment. I could only nod in agreement. Aurora's eyes intensified in determination. In my department, we are in the process of creating a new work management system. If this approach is put into place, it ought to significantly alter the way we operate. With those words, Aurora reached into her left hand to get some documents from a clear folder. This is an outline of the system. I gave it some thought as I turned through the documents she gave me. All right, I'll help you, but I have one condition. If you agree to it, I'll build almost the entire system myself. What? Everything? Isn't that a little excessive? Well, of course, there will be parts where I'll need your help, Aurora. Surprised, Aurora's eyes grew wide. Then I explained to her my situation. I didn't want my name to be mentioned at any point during the system's development, as that would have revealed my true emotions. When I closed my eyes, I was brought back to the months I had spent working with Aurora, doing endless tests, locating issues, and fixing them. We meticulously carried out these actions again, progressively modifying the system. To be honest, developing this system was really difficult, but I persevered because I liked being a software engineer and because Aurora's enthusiasm motivated me even more. In addition, I intended to enhance the business. I picked up my phone once more and placed a call. Hello? There came a voice over the telephone that I had been longing to hear. Sorry to bother you at such a tough time. It's all right. Above all, I sincerely apologize for the inconvenience I gave you. For a brief while, Aurora was silent. You deserve more recognition. It still defies my acceptance. Why were you forced to quit the company? I have lost interest in the company. In addition, Mr. Carter, you ought to tell the president everything. Give up lurking in the dark. You ought to be acknowledged. It was Aurora's remarks that silenced me. My phone vibrated the following day while I was getting ready in the restroom. It was Daniel once more. His tone had altered drastically from the previous day when I reluctantly took the phone. He was sobbing almost completely. Oh, please, I beg you. Aid us. I've been checking with the staff since yesterday, but we can't seem to get the system back up and running. And Mr. Carter came back today, and he is very angry about the state of affairs. Kindly stop by for a short while. I got chills down my spine from the desperation in his words. However, I consented to visit the office. It was completely disorganized when I entered the office for the first time in a long time. The phones kept ringing, and a few staff members were engaged in lengthy conversations on their personal phones. Daniel ran over as soon as he saw me. Mr. Carter and Aurora stood behind him, staring with icy eyes. "Thank you so much, Henry. You've saved my life." As Daniel stated this, he attempted to cling to me, but I deftly sidestepped him and moved to stand behind Aurora and Mr. Carter. "Mr. Carter, my sincere apologies for causing such mayhem. I am solely to blame. Although Aurora has told me everything, I would still like to speak with you directly. What specifically transpired?" Mr. Carter gave me a look, but did not say anything critical. I took a deep breath and started telling Daniel all the abuse and harassment I had experienced. Daniel shot back, saying, "What? The fact that you broke the system remains unaffected. Give up attempting to assign responsibility." I was so fed up with Daniel's pestering that I felt compelled to blow up the system. Nevertheless, given the potential harm to the business, I saw it as a form of vengeance for the abuse. I've provided Aurora with the information required to fix the system. I turned to look at Aurora, and she stared down at it. "What happened to the recovery data?" "Nevertheless," she stated, "when I heard from you that your salary was only $444, I couldn't believe it," in response to my question. Aurora turned to face Daniel at that point and said, "Henry is a really gifted software developer. He is deserving of even greater praise. As opposed to that, you harassed him to the point of annoyance and even attempted to eject him. Daniel, I wanted you to genuinely realize how awful your acts have been." However, Aurora inhaled deeply to regain her composure. "I fully accept responsibility for the chaos that resulted within the organization as a result of my negligence of the recovery process. Even though Henry left the recovery data behind, I did it of my own volition. I sincerely apologize. Henry should not be the target of any punishment. Instead, it should be me." She stood up straight and made a deep bow. Daniel started talking, and at last Mr. Carter broke his stillness. Startled, Daniel turned to face him. Mr. Carter stated calmly yet angrily, "You are responsible for this entire fiasco." Daniel tried to object, but Mr. Carter disregarded him and turned to face Aurora. "I want you to look into this. Find out from the other staff members if he has done anything else improper. Your insights will help me determine the best line of action." Daniel fell to the ground in defeat, recognizing he could not argue his way out of this. Then Mr. Carter turned to face me, saying, "Henry, I want to talk to you by yourself." When I initially walked into the president's office, I noticed that it was stocked with video game titles that the firm had created over the years. I made a deep bow. "I'm sorry, Mr. Carter, for making such a fuss. Everything was an idea of mine. It had nothing to do with Aurora. I'm willing to take any and all penalties." "Why do you always do this?" Mr. Carter yelled in annoyance, his tone having changed from one of calmness. I looked up. My younger brother Nathan was there, looking pained. "Yes, my brother Nathan is the president of this game production company. Henry, you've always been this way, giving yourself up and attempting to keep everyone else out of danger. Do you have any idea how often seeing you like that has made me feel hurt as your brother?" I could only stare down silently, realizing for the first time how Nathan really felt. Nathan kept me going even though he saw me in this state, which just made him hate himself for feeling helpless and unworthy. "Henry, I'm nothing like you. All I am is a failure." Nathan was always irritated with me, even after he was released from the hospital, and he started to avoid me more and more. I'm trying my best for Nathan, but in the end, I'm only causing him more pain. At that point, Nathan's health was largely stable, so he made the decision to launch a game production company with some internet friends who shared his interests. Nathan built a string of successful games very rapidly because of his extraordinary imagination. As the business expanded quickly and became a significant organization, he faced more pressure as president. Nathan eventually had another hospital stay as a result of his health declining due to stress. Nathan had briefed me on the state of the company, and the performance of the company started to deteriorate at the time of his illness. Despite my desire to assist, I was certain that Nathan would never want me to get involved directly. So I made the decision to join the company in secret. But I also realized that too much activity would just make Nathan more upset. I made the decision to labor in the background with the exclusive goal of raising the organization's performance. Did you really think that would make me happy, Henry? Nathan's eyes shot straight through me, piercing with a mixture of despair and rage. To you, I'm still just your sickly little brother, aren't I? But my past self is no longer me. I was really irritated when I first learned that you had come to work for my company. Nathan kept going, balling his fists. Even after becoming an adult and the president of a company like this, I thought you still only saw me as your weak little brother. Tears were pooling in his eyes. I'm not as helpless as you once believed. Did you not notice that today? Nathan moved to get closer to me. We're a real family, so you don't have to act like a superhero in secret. Rather, he grabbed my hand and gave it a firm squeeze. Will you help support the company with me from now on? I was unable to look him in the eye as tears welled up in my eyes. It has been 1 month since the disastrous system. Daniel was let go from the organization with good reason. Nathan had first met him when he founded the business. Having worked in consulting before, he gained Nathan's trust by teaching him everything there was to know about management. However, that was only his public persona. According to Aurora's research, Daniel had been working covertly to take over the company. He had changed the rights to his advantage and had planned with partners to purposefully harm the company's performance in order to remove Nathan from his role as president. After being fired from the company, Daniel allegedly made an effort to use his background and experience to work as a freelance management consultant. However, he had trouble finding employment because of his conceited demeanor and dubious character. He's currently working part-time jobs to make ends meet, and I chanced to notice him directing traffic on the street the other day. Who, of all people, would have guessed Daniel? Regarding myself, I accepted Nathan's invitation to come back to the company and helped him out by joining the board and working as a software developer. Although it appeared that everyone in the workplace had previously felt that Nathan and I were brothers, it was nevertheless a great relief to be able to express this openly. After going through this recent struggle, Aurora and I were able to communicate our feelings to one another and began dating. I swore I would never injure people who were important to me again after thinking back on the current circumstance, which I could not have predicted when I first started working for the organization. In retrospect, I see that I have been bearing a great deal of the weight alone. I've seen firsthand how giving up everything for my family may ultimately hurt them and even people I care about. My family and loved ones mean the world to me, and this recent upheaval has made that clear to me. Together with the individuals that mean most to me, I want to make things that make a lot of people happy in the future, no matter what barriers or difficulties we may encounter. Could you attend the meeting for me? Daniel chuckled while speaking on the phone. I had to get through to him already. I flashed that icy grin. I got it. Let me handle it. All okay. See you later. I'll take pleasure in it. Without detecting my tone, he hung up. I've come to the realization that, as an adult, I should let the past go. However, I won't forgive him if he keeps taking advantage of that and mistreating my family members. Lucas. Yes. Where's Daniel? I informed the person who called out to me on a specific issue. He quickly became an ally of mine when I put forward an idea to him. How did you find it? Have you successfully replaced me? Daniel grinned as he walked over, and I returned the favor. Yeah, I properly reported it for you, your absence, that is. I laughed heartily at his utterly bewildered expression. I'm a married 34-year-old man named Lucas. I have never been really noteworthy. My sole quality is my earnestness. When someone asks for assistance, I find it difficult to say no. My wife Margaret, who was a friend of mine in childhood, was always there to support me. I had always attempted to smile my way out of conflict since I detested it. Margaret, however, would defend me at all times. "Lucas, I'll keep you safe." She would add, "You can stay kind," taking on any obstacle head-on, which frequently gave me anxiety. I had a wonderful childhood buddy, but I struggled with my senior. He constantly attempted to take advantage of me. But I found my pleasure now because of Margaret's affection, which allowed me to forget all those problems. But there was one person in particular who I simply detested, and that was my father. When I didn't succeed in becoming a banker like him, he became stern and stopped acknowledging me. We had no conversation at all. Nevertheless, Margaret and my parents get along well because they have known each other for a long time. It's not a major issue. Margaret and my mom in particular are really close. They go out and do chores together like true family. Though a little confusing, it's a family of sorts. To be honest, I wish we could still laugh together as much as we used to. I was recently moved to a new department inside the company due to a personnel change. I was initially perplexed by the abrupt change, but it appeared that I had been suggested. Who knows, but I made the decision to try my hardest to live up to the standards. I'll be working here from now on. My name is Lucas. It's good to meet you. What? Lucas? Is this the same Lucas as in high school? I met up with the worst senior there again. The person who attempted to take advantage of me was Daniel Anderson, a senior in high school. "Hey Lucas, get some bread and give the money to me. Do you intend to get your senior to pay? Juniors aren't here merely to serve as seniors' deferment. Act like a senior if you are one." Margaret would constantly step in to defend me when Daniel would mess with me. I had no idea that we would work for the same organization. I believed that by attending a better institution than him, I had finally gotten away. "Here, I'm the manager. It's good to meet you." "Oh, nice to meet you." "He's also my boss. This is quite inconvenient. I want to stay as far away from him as I can. By the way, what about that pretty childhood friend of yours?" "Who? You mean Margaret?" "Yes, she was adorable." "What is she doing today then? I take it that you and her broke up." Daniel grinned snidely at me, and I felt insulted. Actually, while we were in high school, he would tell me to give Margaret to him. He was notorious for mistreating women, so I politely declined. "We weren't dating back in high school," I responded. "Yeah, right, a beautiful girl like her with someone like you. We started dating in college, and now she's my wife." Daniel gave my comments a frustrated look. We've been friends since childhood, but we still go on dates and show each other our affections, even if it's awkward. We are not going to break up. Why do I have no partner while someone like you has a stunning wife? Yes, I understand. You're merely her ATM. Perhaps your marriage isn't working out? No, we recently went on a date, and my mom teased us about it. No way, unless she's put on a lot of weight, and no one else wanted her. My wife is still beautiful. Is that all there is to it? I have to say hello to people. I attempted to cut the conversation short, but Daniel remained unrelenting. He took hold of my arm as I attempted to move away. "Please give me her contact information if you're that proud. I'll investigate further." "Hey, enough is enough. What are you two doing over there?" I was ready to scream at him when a man with a severe appearance came over. Daniel's expression changed to one of damnation. "Are you finished working, Mr. Moore? Why don't you complete the duties that are accumulating if you have time to talk?" Under the spotlight of the man referred to as Mr. Moore, Daniel cowered down. I gave him a brevity smile. "I'm grateful. My name is Lucas, and I'll start working here today. I'm the manager, David. You ought to be working if you have time for idle chatter." He then went back to his desk. It was just someone bugging me. Instead, I received a caustic comment. I opted to start working because I was anxious about the future. Regretfully, my negative intuition was confirmed. Hey Lucas, how about your childhood friend? Please stop, and by the way, the manager is watching. To be honest, I was starting to get tired of Daniel constantly bothering me about Margaret. The manager continued to glare at us. I was under pressure to work in this uncomfortable environment. Lucas, can I talk to you for a moment? Sure, what's up? Do you remember Daniel from high school? It startled me that Margaret asked. I didn't inform her that Daniel was working in my department right now. She said his name though, and it made me uneasy. Yes, I do recall. In actuality, he is now my boss. That explains it. What do you mean? Margaret, however, claimed that Daniel had made contact with her. She commutes by train, even though she works for a different company, and we meet at the closest station to head home together. Margaret waits at the station, generally arriving earlier. Today, Daniel came up to her at the station, where she was waiting. Are you okay? I'm doing ok. He soon went after I threatened to shout and summon a station attendant if he continued to bother me. Even still, I find it unbelievable that Daniel would go straight up to Margaret. Daniel was reportedly expected to leave today's off-site meeting right away. He saw Margaret before I could reach her because of this. Just in case, Margaret, consider discussing the possibility of driving to work with your employer. Daniel is still bugging me for your contact information, which is annoying you. Perhaps I ought to have struck him. Hey now, just kidding, laughed Margaret. Now that she's relaxed, Margaret might actually pull it off. It's okay if I drive to work, but I can't accompany you home. Yeah, I understand. I'll come get you at work. What? However, that would be to strain on you. I'll take a morning drive after that. We'll switch when we arrive to your company. How are things there? Yes, that does work. I apologize for the inconvenience. Margaret's non-judgmental smile gave me comfort, and I returned the favor. I still can't allow Daniel to carry on in this manner. Daniel, can I talk to you for a moment? You don't often come up to me. Ready at last to provide me with her contact details. I have no intention of doing that, but I need to talk about my wife. I yelled at Daniel as he entered the office the following day. He smiled slyly at me. Stop chatting with my spouse. She finds your harassing to be bothersome. Is Margaret actually of that opinion? She hasn't altered at all, though. I knew who she was right away. Don't trouble her once more. She's not into you at all. Don't you think I'm going to take her away from you? Yes, you are correct. Daniel's crass laugh unsettled not only me but the entire staff. It was later revealed to me by a coworker that everyone in the department detested Daniel. Daniel sucks up to the manager but causes trouble for everyone else. Oh, I see. You handle this. Isn't this your job as the manager? The boss's directives. Your sole asset is your seriousness. Therefore, put in a lot of effort. Daniel left me to finish his work and went to the smoking room to relax. He occasionally left everything up to me, which made me put in extra hours. Margaret would often have to be told not to pick me up. We still went home together because Margaret would go home first, make supper with my parents, and then come collect me. However, he threw me another load of work today, and it appeared that it would take till late at night. I thus advised Margaret not to go. Mr. Moore, what are you doing? Not done yet. The manager scowled at the work that remained when he spotted me by myself. This was supposed to be Daniel's job. Well, he asked me to do it, and he went home. Yes, there is a party this evening. Daniel was seen happily leaving by several people. Perhaps I was one of them. With a groan, the manager accepted part of the work Daniel had given me. I'll take care of this. Make sure you are aware of your limitations before taking on work. Oh yes, I'm sorry. I finished earlier than I had anticipated, thanks to the manager. Nevertheless, it was oppressive to work alone with the stern-looking manager. I'm glad you wrapped up early. Well done. Thank you so much, Margaret. I cherish you. What? I also adore you. Margaret's flushed cheeks made me feel less stressed about work. What made the management remain late, though? I can't complain because it was helpful. Margaret reminded me, as I was coping with work-related stress and taking solace in her, Lucas, do you remember about Lucas Oro? Next week? Ah, the journey for business. Yeah, glad you remembered. Margaret had a 3-day work trip scheduled. I watched her off without giving it any thought because I knew about it previously. Take care. Obviously. I'll try my hardest because if it goes well, I might receive a bonus. Don't overdo it. I said goodbye to Margaret and left for work. As usual, I searched for Daniel as I started my day. No one had seen him, and he hadn't turned up yet. It was at that moment that Daniel called. Hey, Lucas. Where are you, Daniel? Regarding the meeting's papers for today. Sorry, but I can't take those. What? I was compelled to scowl. It was he who instructed me to create the paperwork. And you have to come to the meeting today in my place. Do a good job. It will be crucial in the future. Wait, what are you going to do, Daniel? I'm taking 3 days off to go on a trip with Margaret. What? What is he discussing? Daniel's statements caused my patience to fray. Margaret is still bothered by him. Cover for me at the meeting, will you? Daniel chuckled while speaking on the phone. I had to explain to him already. I flashed that icy grin. I got it. Let me handle it. All okay. See you later. I'll take pleasure in it. Without detecting my tone, he hung up. Now that I'm an adult, I've chosen to let go of the past, but if he continues to take advantage of me and annoy my family, I won't put up with it any longer. Lucas, where's Daniel? I'd informed the boss that Daniel had missed the meeting in order to go on a trip, which was more significant than the fact that I was there in his place. That moron. Regarding the documents, what are they? The docs are here with me. If you would want, I can explain. You're not like that insignificant manager. I'm grateful. I have an idea. With a serious gaze, he listened to my plan and decided to work with me. Subsequently, Daniel came back from his vacation guilt-free. How did you find it? Did you successfully fill in for me? Daniel smirked as he stepped closer, and I returned the smile. Yeah, I properly reported it for you, that you were absent. I dissolved into giggles. Everyone in the vicinity noticed our conversation. Nah, you responded, leave it to me, when I asked you to come. I did say leave it to me, but I never said I would attend. What? Who authorized you to take that action? I did. In a hurry, Daniel spun around and saw the manager wearing a severe expression. In your place, he duly reported to me. Additionally, a discussion concerning your job conduct was held while you were away. What? I had suggested something to the manager. Seizing the chance, I reported all of Daniel's information. The manager held interviews with every employee in the department and brought up the matter in a meeting with the supervisors. You could have stopped this if you had shown up to the meeting rather than letting it slip. You ought to be excited about the future. After listening to the manager, Daniel's face went pale, and he fell to his knees. Daniel was not helped by anyone. This demonstrated how little people loved him. I asked the manager a question that had been on my mind during our research, even though I didn't intend to finish it here. Mr. Moore, you often watched us during work, didn't you? Oh, I see. I kept an eye out for Daniel's disturbing you so I could intervene as needed. It astonished me. It seems that the manager had been observing to assist me each time Daniel would harass me. Though his hard glance gave me the impression that he was looking at me as well. His severe looks were exclusively meant for Daniel. Why did you care so much about me? I appreciated your work even before you joined this department. Really. Some of the records from other departments were clearly labeled and structured. I looked into it and saw your name. so I talked to my uncle about getting you moved to my department." When the manager mentioned his uncle, I turned to look at him. He looked away, appearing a little ashamed. "My uncle is the CEO." "You're related to the CEO?" "Yes, I am a contender to take over as CEO from my uncle as he is childless. This is only known by the higher-ups in management." Daniel was giving in to the manager because of this. Now that I understand it clearly. "I don't know if I'll become the CEO, but if I do, I want you to be my right-hand man." "Are you serious? Many thanks for it." It made me truly glad to have my work acknowledged. I'm happy that I've worked hard at my job. By the way, Daniel was pretending to be competent to get that position, but the manager saw through it and was extra strict with him. Probably Daniel was jealous of you. What? Daniel was so incompetent when he started working in our department that I had to correct him every day. The manager mentioned a pattern of basic mistakes being made often, not reporting them, and an overall casual attitude as examples of the sloppy work. Daniel did not appear to be getting any better. He was making these mistakes all the time. In high school, I saw Daniel receive a lot of reprimands from his teachers. As for me, I get punished occasionally, but not very often. According to the management, Daniel needed to get several reprimands before receiving recognition. Let's keep working together. Yes. I respected the management for recognizing my efforts and treating me harshly. My adoration appeared to embarrass him a little. I desired to pursue this individual. I was really appreciative of the organization for allowing me to work under someone with his level of experience and for providing me with this learning opportunity. Margaret had an accident when we were kids, which is why she began to like me. I rescued her from drowning in a river since I could swim well. My parents chastised me severely at the time, but Margaret has watched me closely ever since. You're my hero, Lucas. I've been observing you, and your earnestness has won me over. She says this on every anniversary, and I never question her fidelity because I've heard it so many times. Margaret was, in fact, on a legitimate work trip. Daniel apparently followed her on her business trip, mistaking it for a vacation. When he appeared in front of me, I was really afraid, but that soon gave way to rage. I detest cowardly jerks like you. I said to him, Lucas, my true hero, is the one person I adore. When Margaret told me this after her trip, I couldn't help but be impressed. Margaret's beauty has made her popular for years, but her obsession with me makes many males give up before they ever come clean. I mean, Margaret also has me completely smitten. After that, Lucas, I made a list of everything I adore about you. I held each point up to him, and he appeared on the verge of tears. To be honest, I felt a little terrible for Daniel. Being judged by the person you love about someone else must hurt. Margaret and I are in love with one another, so I haven't experienced it, but Daniel went too far this time. While I sympathize with him, I cannot support his behavior. Margaret, we need to report Daniel as a stalker. I'm not bothered by it, plus I can handle him. It is intolerable to me. I want to scream just thinking about someone like him being close to you. Oh, Lucas. Margaret and I made the decision to file a stalker complaint on Daniel. Daniel had been discreetly shooting pictures of Margaret while following her, and we were unaware of it. A protection order was put in place for him. Daniel's poor performance at work and his surveillance of Margaret led to his termination. Despite his repeated apologies, I cut him off without mercy. My reputation was enhanced by spotting and eliminating such a liability from the organization, and the manager was appointed as the company's new CEO. Daniel's job as manager was elevated to me, and I'm now putting a lot of effort into honing my abilities under a trustworthy supervisor. I've worked hard, and everyone around me has noticed and acknowledged me. I was working smoothly one day until my father interrupted. Margaret told me about your accomplishments. Excellent work. You truly are my son. It was like my strict father saw me for the first time. Margaret quietly said to me as I stood there in shock, Your father has always recognized you, Lucas, but he had a hard time expressing it to you. Startled by what she said, I started laughing. My father seemed to be merely bashful. My father watched me chuckle, seeming ashamed, while Margaret seemed joyful. We learned Margaret was expecting our child soon after Daniel was fired. Every day, I give Margaret's expanding tummy a gentle pat. Do you think it's a boy or a girl, Lucas? Any way is fine with me. I'm prepared to adore them unconditionally. They will undoubtedly be kind and strong-willed if they are our child. True. Margaret smiles so brightly that it makes me adore her even more. I tried cooking since I wanted to help Margaret because she's pregnant, but I ended up burning stuff. Margaret scoffed at my attempt. I looked at my mother, ashamed. She had a nostalgic expression on her face. Your father also burnt the eggs black when I was pregnant with you. My father flushed at hearing this. He looked so similar that we all chuckled. I wish to keep this contented family safe forever. I didn't realize it was a mixer with gorgeous secretaries when I went to a drinking party with my college pals. The extremely attractive secretary, who looked like a famous actress, looked disgusted when I showed there in my beat-up work clothes. Really? Who shows up at a mixer dressed for work? How could you possibly wear such filthy clothing? I was perplexed by her abrupt critique and questioned whether she had resentment towards me. She claimed, I didn't realize it was a mixer with gorgeous secretaries when I went to a drinking party with my college pals. The extremely attractive secretary, who looked like a famous actress, looked disgusted when I showed there in my beat-up work clothes. Really? Who shows up at a mixer dressed for work? How could you possibly wear such filthy clothing? I was perplexed by her abrupt critique and questioned whether she had resentment towards me. She claimed, as she went on to chastise me with even harsher words. I arrived at this upscale establishment, where reservations are difficult to come by, and I already feel like this place stinks. Yes, work clothes are unkempt, unattractive, and foul-smelling. Really, who shows up to a drinking party dressed in work attire? It's completely out of place. She gave me a dirty look when she looked at me. My attractive friend intervened to help when he saw me hanging my head. Come on, since we're all here together, let's all take a drink. I should have told him that it was a mixer. Please just get it a pass this time. All right, but won't you make it right for me the next time? She looked down on me as she suggestively clutched to the attractive pharmaceutical sales representative. She was unaware, though, that this relationship dynamic would change and leave her crying in the not-too-distant future. Samuel is my name. I am employed as a researcher for a top U.S. pharmaceutical business. Although becoming a researcher seems wonderful, in my situation, it's a system of optional work. It's very difficult because performance reviews directly affect our pay. Though performing, research necessitates a significant number of experiments. The flexible hours are enticing. I got to work early, changed into the work clothes provided by the company, and began reviewing the outcomes of the tests I had put up the day before, as well as getting ready for the studies I would be conducting today. Samuel, good morning. Keith remarked, you're working hard early again today. Hello and happy morning, Keith. I answered, I'm just finishing up an experiment right now. That's fantastic. This indicates that a novel medication is drawing near. Keith, a coworker, and I greeted each other and discussed our daily schedules. Did I mention that you're coming to the drinking party today, Samuel? Remember not to forget, like you typically do. I got it, I said, recalling that my college pals and I were having a drinking party today. I noticed that I had worn my typical business attire when I left my house. I thought to myself, well, it's just a casual gathering with familiar faces, so it should be fine, and returned to my experiments. When I eventually got around to entering the experimental data, I realized it was way past the time to stop. How come it's already so late? Every day, time flies. My phone rang from my desk drawer as I let out a sigh. "Hey Keith, how are you?" I replied nonchalantly. "Where have you gone? You remember what I told you this morning of the drinking party? Just now, I reminded you once again. How many hours have gone by since then, do you know? The meeting time has long since passed. Get moving." Oh no, I overlooked it. I become distracted with my studies and forget where I am. On the plus side, people generally describe me as a loner, but on the negative side, as a genius. People frequently tell me that I don't care about anything besides studying. I had entirely forgotten that Keith and I had gone out to drink. I ran to the assigned spot after hastily leaving the lab. I was still dressed in the work clothes I had put on that morning, of course. When I got to the meeting spot, my college pals and coworker Keith were waiting in line. Interestingly enough, there were several stunning women across from them. "Samuel, you're running late." "How come?" I mistook this for nothing more than our college pals' drinking party. A buddy of ours apologetically clasped his hands together. "I apologize. I should have mentioned to Keith that today was a mixer. However, I'll be honest. I don't get along with beautiful ladies. I've always been interested in research and have generally spoken with female scientists. Women who are interested in science conduct. Rational discussions without needing to read between the lines. However, I am aware that glamorous women don't get along with my direct demeanor. In addition, I'm dressed in boring work attire today, so there's not even the slightest suggestion of a mixer vibe. Really? Who shows up at a mixer dressed for work? How could you possibly wear such filthy clothing? One of the women across from us grumbled, as one would anticipate. Upon closer inspection, I noticed that the woman who was complaining resembled a well-known actress. Very lovely, in fact. Her personality appeared really unpleasant, though. I arrived at this upscale bar that is difficult to reserve, and it seems really dirty. Yes, work clothes are unkempt, unattractive, and foul-smelling. That someone could attend a mixer wearing only such attire is deplorable. Keith intervened to protect me as I hung my head in response to the abrupt criticism, thinking, "Here we go again. Hey, hold on to that. Since everyone in this room is engaged in pharmaceutical research, they are all dressed for work." Keith stated it to support me. Well, since it was supposed to be a mixer with a pharmaceutical company, I thought of guys in sharp suits. This is really disappointing. I apologized for spoiling the mood, sensing it was going bad even before the mixer began. Please pardon me while I enjoy myself. Let's meet up with the guys again later. I had no idea it was a mixer. "Samuel, please don't say that. It sounds like my fault now." The woman pouted and said, "This is the worst," as though she thought I was to blame. "Come on, since we're all here together, let's all take a drink. Mary, I'm to blame for not letting him know it was a mixer. Please just get it a pass this time." "All right, but you promised to make it up to me the next time." Mary, the stunning woman, responded to my classmate Liam. It's not my position to comment, but Liam is tall, fit, and reasonably attractive. He's a pharmaceutical business sales representative, and he's probably attracted a lot of ladies. Mary spoke to Liam in a kind way today as well, hoping to gain one up on the other women. Even I doubted her since her expression when she presented it to me was so different. The woman at the other end of the table from me started talking to me then. "Hello, this is Lily. I take it you're Samuel from that big drug company. I'm really impressed with your business. It's incredible how you keep creating new medications one after another. I'm thrilled to speak with you." She reportedly suffered from a severe disease as a child, but our company's creation helped her get better. She became an ardent supporter of our business after that encounter. However, I'm wearing these out-of-date work attire in this elegant setting. Is it not bothering you? Not at all. I don't care about the clothes. I wanted to hear about your career in drugs. It's actually kind of amazing that the job clothing make you look like a professional researcher. She seemed like an angel to me with her radiant smile. She was talking about other things and laughed merrily before I could say anything. Lily stood out from the other ladies at the mixer, all of whom were secretaries and frequently referred to as hotties. And I couldn't help but be moved by her. However, that disagreeable voice I had heard before now resounded from our front. Oh, the goody two-shoes Lily is going to pull off. It's amazing that you can get along with such a dull guy while dressed professionally. Since I don't enjoy drinking at bars with guys dressed for work, you two dull individuals go well together. She then began to make fun of Lily as well. Keith started to say something, but I cut him off as I saw the atmosphere become icy once more. I left the bar after telling Lily I would chat to her more later because I felt bad for her. I was sad when I remembered after leaving that I hadn't given Lily my contact details. When I brought up Lily the following day, and Keith apologized gently for the previous evening, he remarked, "Oh, Lily, I have her contact information. Do you want me to distribute it?" "Ah, I see. She wasn't very interested in me. She was just a fan of this company. It didn't have to be me because Keith works here as well." What did I anticipate? When I realized this, I was sad. Keith seemed perplexed to see me suddenly become lethargic. What's not right? Do you think Lily is interesting? Keith made fun of me, but to be honest, I wasn't feeling it. Well, in one night, a developing crush that I had discovered for the first time had fallen apart. No, I have to quickly review the experiment results. See you later. Hey. Keith began to speak, but I ignored him and returned to my lab. That is the nature of the world. I like my guys happy and personable, like Keith, better than sad. Guys like me. I returned my attention to my study. I nearly lived in the lab for the following month. Hardly left, as the new drug study came to a close, and I eventually succeeded in creating the much-anticipated new medicine. Congratulations, you finally did it. I'm grateful. At last, there's a relief from my burden. The path to get here has been lengthy. Yeah, you did great. Thanks. I've been working on an anti-cancer treatment for years, and this is the new one I created. It lessens the impact on healthy cells and lessens the specific adverse effects of chemotherapy by only targeting cancer cells in the body. I lost my mother to cancer when I was a child. I saw her battle chemotherapy-related nausea and hair loss. She would frequently cry and complain that the pain was too much and that she wished she could refuse the therapy. Following 2 or 3 rounds of treatment, she became weak and scarcely able to speak. It was hard for us to visit her since her immune system had deteriorated to the point that she was confined to a clean room. Samuel, pursue your passion for a long life. I'll be leaving for heaven a little early, but you can count on me to always be in my sights. Those, after all, were my mother's final words before she died. I was suspicious of the treatment even as a child. Why did the medication that was supposed to heal her condition cause her so much suffering? Was it not possible to target the illness without causing pain? My interest in drugs was ignited by these issues. I came to this company to help lessen the pain associated with chemotherapy after studying pharmacology. My goal is to create anti-cancer medications with minimal adverse effects. Luckily, I had a number of unanticipated discoveries during the creation of this medication, which resulted in new painkillers and treatments for brain tumors. Lily's severe illness was alleviated by one of these medications. I thought we were meant to be together, but it didn't seem like fate had any romantic intentions for me. Then Keith said something out of the blue. By the way, did Mary contact you on your phone? Mary? Hold on. Who is that? I cocked a head, not knowing the name. Keith furrowed his brow. She's the woman who was rude to you at the mixer. Oh, her. Despite her beauty, I didn't want to hang out with her because of her personality. Why would she contact me? Apparently, she wants to apologize for the terrible things she said to you back then. No, an apology is not necessary. I simply don't want to interact with her in the future. Keith responded clumsily, Yeah, I figured you'd say that, so I refused to give her your contact info. She then asked Liam for your number and made multiple attempts to get in touch with you. But you never got back to her. She voiced her concerns to Liam, who then got in touch with me. However, I refrained from speaking to you at this crucial juncture in your research since I didn't want to disturb you. Yes, as you are aware, I give that my whole attention when I'm working on a project. For more than a month, the lab has been my second home. I was too busy to even glance at my phone. Exactly, but a lot happened during that time. Did something happen? Interested? I asked Keith. I was summoned to the president's office out of the blue. Mr. Nelson wants to see you, Samuel. Please, could you visit the president's office? I quickly nodded to Keith and said I would speak with him later before rushing to the president's office. President Mr. Nelson held out his hand to shake mine when I got there. Congratulations, you did a great job. Thank you. Now we can reduce the suffering caused by the side effects of chemotherapy. I shook Mr. Nelson's hand and allowed a tear roll down my face, feeling a sense of accomplishment at having finally realized my dream. Even though I had not wept when my mother passed away, I started crying today. Back then, I felt ashamed of my own weakness and was unable to face the truth of my mother's absence. Therefore, I was unable to cry, because I didn't think I deserved to. With this new medication, my mother wouldn't return, but even so, she would give me a gentle pat on the head and say, You did well. I felt that it was acceptable to cry now. Have you made your decision? I raised my head to respond when Mr. Nelson asked me the question. Abruptly, I noticed someone I definitely didn't want to see appear. What are you doing here? Mr. Nelson started presenting her to me after noticing my shocked look. Oh, Mary is here. She will be our secretary going forward. Hi, I'm Mary. Nice to meet you. Eager to collaborate with you. I could already feel her gaze glaring down at my work attire. Even though she might have been attempting to seem like it was our first time meeting, I couldn't get beyond those patronizing looks. Mr. Nelson, I'm not sure how Mary was hired, but she isn't suitable for our company. Oh. Furthermore, why is such the case? Curious, Mr. Nelson asked. So I gave an explanation. This company stands on the hard work and dedication of its researchers, as you well know. Our researchers are undoubtedly our most valuable resource, but one woman doesn't like the uniforms they have to wear every day. They were smelly, unattractive, and disgusting, as she put it. Our company's culture is not compatible with such an approach. You're right, I responded. A researcher's professional attire resembles their armor of war. They are courageous fighters against unidentified illnesses. Someone who makes fun of their combat gear is not needed. How come? It was Mary who appeared taken aback by what I had said and by Mr. Nelson's answer. She parted her lips briefly, as though she was attempting to say something. At last, she gave me a steely look and said, Excuse me, Mr. Nelson, but he is the one unfit for this company. Oh. Furthermore, why is such the case? Actually, I was waiting to gather evidence, but he has been leaking our client's personal information to other companies. What? Me? I was taken aback by the charge. She pulled out her phone and displayed a picture while I stood there in shock. This is a duplicate of the customer data he provided to an additional pharmaceutical business. The info on his phone should be the same. I'm going to notify Mr. Nelson and arrange for his arrest. What absurdity. You're not telling the truth. That is accurate. Please show us your phone if you are innocent. The door knocked and opened without waiting for an answer when we were having an argument. There stood my coworker Keith and quite unexpectedly Lily. Lily and Keith. Why are you in this place? Perplexed, I asked. Said Keith, I was going to tell you earlier, but Lily joined the company as a secretary right after that. Lily said, "Yes, I didn't get to meet you then, but I've been working here for a month," reiterating what Keith had said. "It's a pleasure to formally meet you." "Ah, I see. Why are you both present then?" They believed there was a problem after hearing our argument from the president's office. Lily looked at Mary with a sharpness that was out of character when she noticed that she was pointing at me. "Mary, are you trying to frame an innocent person again?" "What are you talking about?" Mary shot back. "I know you were extracting personal information from the phones of men you met at mixers and selling it to rival companies." "What nonsense are you talking about?" Mary appeared terrified. "After the mixer, you contacted everyone, including Liam, right?" Keith asked, further aggravating her. "After you got in touch with them, we discovered that their phone data had been stolen." "Whatever. That is not evidence of anything. That might just be a coincidence." Regretfully, researchers and other staff members at pharmaceutical businesses have very stringent security policies. We have installed software that, in the event that our phone data is copied, notifies certain people. Liam and the others you contacted received an alert similar to this one a month ago. "That's just a coincidence," Mary argued. Lily went on to offer more proof, saying, "Mary, you employed the same strategy to terminate me. You circulated accusations that I was the one who took customer information from my phone and gave it to a competitor business. I recruited experts to look into things in order to clear my identity. When a target answers a call, the hacking software you employed infects their phone and begins to extract data. It was possible to identify the data recipient as being on your phone." "That is untrue. You're merely attempting to frame me out of jealousy for my abilities," Mary yelled. "Had you not always attempted to manipulate others and play the victim to get out of sticky situations? But not right now. I had experts look at your phone, and they discovered a ton of evidence that implicated you." "What? You stole my phone's data. It is illegal." Mary lost her temper. "You're the last person who should be saying that." Following a heated dispute between the two women, Mary appeared to recognize her disadvantage. She made one last, frantic gesture, pointing at me. "This man is the true offender. Yes, I believe that he stole my phone to get even with me for mocking him. Mr. Nelson, I hope you will trust me. He is solely to blame." The charge was almost comical in its absurdity. "Oh, furthermore, how would it help me if I stole data from everyone's phones? Sincerely speaking, I have access to significantly more powerful people's personal information than either Mr. Nelson or my coworkers. Why would I require any of this unimportant knowledge?" "What topic are you discussing?" Mary shot back. "There's no way you have such connections." Mr. Nelson spoke up this time. "No, he is being honest. Samuel maintains relationships with prominent scholars across the globe, CEOs of large pharmaceutical companies, and even a few Nobel laureates." "What? What are you talking about, Mr. Nelson?" Mary became perplexed by Mr. Nelson's abrupt declaration. "Because Samuel is my son and the next president of this company," Mr. Nelson continued. "What? Moreover, he developed the majority of our main pharmaceuticals. During his middle school years, he began working as a temporary researcher for our organization, having studied pharmacology independently since he was a young boy. In high school, he discovered a well-known cure for a rare illness. We haven't revealed his identity to the public to prevent us from being courted by rival businesses or offered positions at esteemed foreign universities by well-known academics. Additionally, he has created a groundbreaking anti-cancer medication. My presidency is coming to an end." "What? It's not possible." There were security personnel waiting in the room when Mary made a stupid-sounding exclamation. "We employed you, by the way, to entice you to reveal your wrongdoings. Using security, cameras, and the webcam on your computer, We have captured every moment. A unique gift was also included in the data you sold to other businesses. The data I sold. Mary stumbled. It did really have a virus in it. They were contaminated as soon as they opened it. They'll probably have serious repercussions for you. What? How are you able to? Mary shook at the news. It was now evident from her behavior that she had stolen information about our organization. After that, security turned Mary over to the police. Naturally, we provided all of the supporting documentation. My father said that she was an industrial spy working in the pharmaceutical sector. She was a pretty inept spy because she primarily used honey traps to target pharmaceutical researchers, but she was ultimately tricked by her targets. After finishing the eagerly awaited new medication, I made the decision to succeed my father as president. I had insisted on finishing the new medication before my father asked me multiple times, and he patiently waited. Unknowingly joining our organization, Lily grew to be a close confidant. By the way, Lily, what's going on between you and Keith lately? What are you trying to say? We are exactly the same. Since I was a little child, Keith has always watched out for me. Since you were a child, oh, you were unaware. My cousin is Keith. He looked after me as a child while I was ill. Oh, I see. I recognized that I had erred greatly. I asked to meet you, if only to have a close-up look at you, after learning that he would be collaborating with a person who created the medication that healed my disease. I was too scared to talk to you when I found out you were actually Mr. Nelson's son and the incoming president after I started working for the company. But I'm glad we can communicate like this now. You're happy to talk to me? Yes, I've always admired you. Oh, really? I understand. I felt stupid for thinking Keith and Lily were in a romantic relationship. I had been such an idiot to believe I should step aside. I then assumed the presidency and assisted in the global distribution of the novel medication. Lily became my partner. She helped me out both personally and professionally. It was, of course, my friend Keith who facilitated our reunion. Hey Keith, I can always count on you. Do you not think I'm annoying? Not really. Although you're a sloppy research nerd, you're not bothersome to me. You're a nice friend, though. Hold on. You're both my close friend and my benefactor. What? He had always taken care of me and watched out for me since high school. Though I still thought of him as a close friend, I had never heard him refer to me as his benefactor before. What do you mean by benefactor? You aware of Lily's uncommon illness? It is recognized to have a significant genetic component, correct? Yeah. Well, my mother also had that disease. What? I was unaware of this. Keith's mother had had the unusual disease for a very long period, and she was nearing the end of her life. Because there were no viable medicines available, he and his family had almost given up hope. Then, one day, a novel medication was created in the United States that dramatically improved the condition of people suffering from the uncommon illness. Among those who made this amazing recovery was Keith's mother. Wow, I had no idea. Yes, you used to skip a lot of school to do your study. I once heard the teachers in the staff room chatting about you. They claimed that you were a brilliant high school student who had created a wonderful substance. That is overly dramatic. It was simply an outcome of the research I was conducting for the novel medication. I was simply fortunate. But Lily and my mother were spared thanks to that byproduct. I was shocked and appreciative to learn that you were the one who created it. I felt guilty for doing nothing important while you were creating medicines that could save lives. Even though I knew I couldn't outsmart you, I still wanted to do something. In order to support you in any way I could, I chose to attend the same university as you. I see. In the whole history of my elementary school, my IQ was the highest. Despite the teacher's compliments, I didn't feel like I belonged because my style of thinking was so different from other children's. With books and encyclopedias as my sole companions, I had a lonely upbringing. It grew worse in middle school. I was lonely a lot of the time, and no one spoke to me. I didn't need school friends because I enjoyed studying about pharmacology from industry researchers. I just made the required minimal attendance, hardly attending any classes. There are networks and support organizations for brilliant people nowadays, but not while I was in school, which resulted in a great deal of loneliness. Thanks to Keith, I could remember how much fun I had in high school. To be honest, it was him who showed me the ropes in social interaction. You are a very significant buddy to me, regardless of the cause. Let's continue to help one another. Yeah, you can count on me. Keith and I shared a giggle. I've known the public as a genius who created numerous new medications. But that's only the result. I owe it to my father, who let me to freely follow my passion for pharmacology, my friends, who never gave